Hello, friends. The 732nd day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Last night, the Ukrainian military telegram channel Deep State confirmed the capture by the Russians of the village of Lastochkyne, west of Avdiivka. Deep State also reported that the Russian army continues to advance on the nearby villages of Yevhenii and Orlovka. Where next will the command of the Operational Strategic Group of Troops, Tavria, announce prepared defense lines? Asks Deep State. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces for the first time commented on the situation in the village of Lastochkyne, from where, as both Russian and Ukrainian military telegram channels wrote yesterday, units of the Ukrainian army left under the threat of attacks from the flanks. The speaker of the Tavria group, Lastochkyne, denied this and stated that Ukrainian troops still remain on the western outskirts of the village. The armed forces of Ukraine have taken prepared defensive positions. The enemy is constantly using guided bombs, artillery, and FPV drones against the positions of Ukrainian soldiers, Lastochkyne said. Guys, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but this is where the obvious conflict between the Operational Strategic Group of Troops, Tavria, and Deep State analysts continued. I voice such things not in order to harm, but so that these moments may be paid attention to and eliminated. Deep State writes today that no matter how hard the command of the Tavria group tries to claim in its statements that the village is being held, it is lost. In the footage you can see our fighters leaving the village. The Russians occupied it, hanging their flags in the village. The fighters themselves also talk about this, adding important details about the course of events and the preparation of engineering and fortification structures. It was difficult to hold the village in extremely difficult conditions because there was no defense built there, and the fighters had to roll back from the battles in Avdiivka and gain a foothold in the very process of hostilities. All this time, the Russians continued to press with a large number of infantry and equipment, which is quite difficult to restrain. The meat assault tactics continue along the entire section from Berdichi to Tonenki. Once again we heard withdrew to prepared positions. And then we will hear again and again, because in the neighboring villages the situation is absolutely the same, and the enemy has to be restrained by the forces of the Ukrainian military, on whose shoulders the whole burden falls. It's not enough to just talk about the value of the lives of fighters. This must be realized because this is all we have, wrote the Ukrainian military telegram channel Deep State. As for the situation in Roboetyne, in the Melitopol sector, the Ukrainian telegram channel Deep State writes that the enemy sometimes breaks into the village, but this is a one-way road. Let me remind you that yesterday a lot of videos appeared where Russians were storming a school located in the central part of Roboetyne on Shevchenko Street. Ukrainian telegram channels wrote that in Roboetyne, enemy armored vehicles drove from west to east along Cherivna Street. Deep State writes that there is now enough footage of the presence of enemy groups and certain pieces of equipment online, but this is due to their banzai attacks on the village. Without engaging in battle, they enter Roboetyne with the hope of gaining a foothold, but the consequences for everyone are obvious. They are found, eliminated, or captured. Russian telegram channels today admitted that the Ukrainian armed forces pushed their troops out of the center of the village to the southern outskirts of the village. Fierce fighting in and around Roboetyne continues. Today Zelensky said at a press conference that Western aid on the eve of the summer counteroffensive in the Zaporizhia region did not reach 4 Ukrainian brigades. We had a fist for a counteroffensive. Until today, 4 brigades from that package were naked. Help did not arrive. 4 brigades could have fought. They did not fight, they stood and waited for equipment, the president said. According to him, this equipment was promised, but it has not yet been delivered. Zelensky also hinted that there are traitors in the military political leadership of Ukraine. Our counteroffensive actions last fall were on the Kremlin's table before the counteroffensive itself began, he said. Zelensky also said that Kiev has a clear plan for a counteroffensive. According to him, this plan is also connected with the appointment of a new commander-in-chief. The president announced the losses of Ukraine over 2 years of war, and according to him, they amount to 31,000 military deaths. He did not mention the numbers of wounded and missing. He also stated that Russia lost about 180,000 military personnel in 2 years of war. Let me note that the Ukrainian General Staff now gives almost 410,000 Russian losses without breaking them down into killed and wounded, which the Ukrainian media often interprets as casualties. But it was not always so. Until August 23, 2023, the General Staff used in daily reports the word liquidated, that is, killed, in relation to the personnel of the Russian army. The latest such report indicated that more than 258,000 Russians were liquidated, that is, significantly more than the president said today. Further, these figures increased daily, but were renamed estimated enemy losses, without specifying the wounded and dead. Why this was done is not known exactly. Perhaps the General Staff of Ukraine considered that the published figures for the losses of Russians liquidated, that is, dead, seemed too implausible. Let me remind you that in the fall, in his article for The Economist, Commander-in-Chief Zelensky stated that 150,000 Russians died on the battlefield. Friends, preparing these daily reports has become my full-time job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. There have been few views on the channel lately, which is why I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me financially, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.